Hello, my brethren. I hope you're all well. This past week was a long one. It was a heavy one. It was an ugly one. There was a lot of stress, a lot of drama, and a lot of good things that came out of everything. It was a week that restored my faith in humanity. Zeta, Dark Knight, Shining Light, Turkman, and Warhorse attended the hangout that lasted for about 3.5 hours, where we talked about depression and male suicide. The link for that hangout is of course in the description below for anyone who wants to listen to it. Also, if anyone is interested in listening to these hangouts that we occasionally produce, Shining Light and Zeta Society are usually the best people to have a look. I will provide the link to this to their YouTube account, and please sign up. These people are just brilliant people, genuinely awesome guys who want what's best for their fellow men. In that pre-mentioned hangout, 3 of us actually shared our personal stories, and we talked about male suicide and depression and what we can all do to prevent this from happening. I realized after the talk that there is a brotherhood forming, a camaraderie that I see with a lot of the MGTOW content producers, and I see it in a lot of the people making comments in my videos and other people's videos. People want to be heard, people want to be understood, people want to share their stories and to get help. And what's amazing, a lot of the men, a lot of the brothers want to help these men too. We try to do our absolute best, so this video would be a different one. In this video, I'm going to talk about a friend's story. Story of his awakening, and I want you to hear from his words how a rational mind can comprehend the red pill. The person gave me artistic license, and of course, in order to preserve his anonymity, he will remain anonymous and the people's names will be changed, but the content of the story will be preserved so that you get the feeling of what he was actually telling me. And here my brother talks. First, we need to understand my character at the time, which was firmly blue pill. However, the acquisition of pussy was not a priority number 1. It was the acquisition of financial assets which was my first priority. This has inadvertently kept me single, as I never bought a house, which the wife will take in a divorce once I had kids. There was no overt sign of the assets I had accumulated over the years. I was 36 or 37, the usual age for a red pill awakening. I met a housekeeper, a beautiful young girl, more attractive than most of my previous girlfriends. I used to give her a lift occasionally and socialize with her at parties. After about 1 month, her friends used to tell me that I cannot possibly get a girlfriend unless I express my feelings towards that woman. The lady called Grace told her friends that I should be expressing my love towards her so that she could move on to the next stage in her manipulation. And what was there not to love about her? As she was charming, bubbly, and always smiling. When I did eventually confess to her that I loved her, she replied that she did not love me. When I appeared to be merrily going on my way, she retracted a part of it, saying that she did not love me fully, or some crap like that. You see, she wasn't 100% in love, but you know, it was good enough for me. We men are so stupid when it comes to these things. Eventually, a romance started, and I really cannot remember how. But it started nonetheless. Sex was actually given quite quickly. I emphasized that I was not going to spend a lot of money on any girl, and if that was what she wanted, she should move on to another guy. You see, she needed a sponsor to stay in the Middle East, and I of course arranged for one of my friends to sponsor her as a housemate, which cost me about £500. But you see, according to her visa, she was only allowed to work as a housemate, but against my advice, she took other jobs as well, and eventually landed in jail. I had to pay about £150 for her release. My so-called friend and sponsor did not allow me any leverage over this woman. The relationship continued, of course, but I felt like a puppy being trained to perform certain tricks on command. Then she started to ignore me when I went to see her. I noticed her flirting with other men while I was around, and I started to feel lovesick. I stopped eating, and even my colleagues noticed that I was not 100% when they were around me. Grace knew how I was feeling, and she was bragging about the control her presence had over my life. Eventually, The nonsense became too much, even for my blue pill mind, and I ended the relationship. I started shagging a 50-year-old lady to get over it, and I eventually did after a while. But you see, a rational person might think that, she was just one bad apple. After all, I did not have so many long-term relationships. But then I went on holiday to see my parents and my sisters. And to my horror, they were having exactly the same responses and were behaving in exactly the same way as my ex-girlfriend. How could a woman from a totally different cultural background to my family, who came from a half a world away, be behaving in exactly the same way that my mother and sisters were? It really struck a nerve in me. I can only describe the behavior of my mother and older sisters as a version of hatred. When you hate someone, you wish to do harm to that person. Usually, you do not try to hide the fact that you wish to inflict harm. However, with the girlfriend, mother, and older sisters, their intent was to do as much psychological harm as possible while hiding their intention and presenting their arguments as friendly and as family advice. It seemed that the only thing my family members and Grace had in common was their biology. I theorized that they were behaving instinctively rather than rationally. I believed I could see the instincts manifest themselves physically. I believed it is a controlling mechanism, as in my family, that this behavior was always directed at junior members of the family. I began to fit patterns of the behaviors that I encountered into this model. Why did so many of my girlfriends break up with me only to try and make up several weeks later? Why do some women throw a man's luggage out of the window? Why do women get jealous over innocent behavior? All of these things fitted in what I thought I knew about human behavior. I say human because men do these things as well, but of course to a lesser extent. My journey to MGTOW is through observation of human behavior. I did not consider gynocentrism until I started reading MGTOW blogs and watching MGTOW videos. I know many have come to the red pill through painful separation from partners, children, loss of assets, and much worse. In this case, perhaps you think, never again. Not sure, I'm just guessing here. Some men, I believe, are blessed or cursed with stronger instincts and instinctively know how women behave, but I'm only guessing here. I believe that such strong instincts are necessary in women as well. Would you carry a being inside of you for 9 months? This creature that you're nursing actually has a 1 in 10 chance of killing you. That's the mortality rate among mothers in poorly developed countries. If it were an instinct, then you would do it anyway, no matter what the risk. Like shagging. Without these instincts, the human race would die out. Women may choose not to have children, but the instinct still remains there. Without these instincts, the human race would disappear. Grace eventually got a new boyfriend. Her friends were surprised because he had a lower paying job than what I had. I think she was in it for the control. She sussed out my personality and used me as a living doll. I do not see that there was anything else for her other than perhaps my help in arranging a sponsor. At that time, she wanted to friend-zone me, but even my blue pill self could see through that. As far as emotions go, the entire relationship, it felt as though I was going through the motions. I don't know how to describe it in any other way. I consider the description of emotions to be a woman's world. I view things as rationally as I can through observation. My journey to MGTOW and the red pill came through observation of Grace, my mother, and my sisters. I could see the links between their behaviors, and I could see the instincts that could be driving these behaviors. It's how I came across gynocentrism and hypergamy. It's how I came across MGTOW. So that was my anonymous commenter and my dear friend. Now, why am I sharing this story with you guys? Here we see the male brain at work, trying tirelessly to break down human interaction and relationships to its bare bones. This man's red pill awakening was not through a very traumatic experience. Mine was not through a traumatic experience either. Most of MGTOWs had traumatic experiences in their lives though, as did I. But the fact that we have now landed in MGTOW, the fact that we now accept these truths, this logic that flows so nicely through our arguments, is because we were open to it. We were looking for answers and we found them. We were being told all the time that we were broken men. And for this friend of mine, I'm sure the experience hurt, whether he acknowledged it or not. being used as a commodity, I can imagine there was some emotional hurt there, whether he was able to verbalize it or not. But I would not call my friend here broken. And I don't think I was broken either. But we need to remember, the majority of MGTOWs are highly intelligent people. We get the occasional idiots, of course. Everyone does. But for the people to be able to truly understand the concepts that we're describing here, and I mean truthfully understand them, there needs to be a mind that is searching for answers, and a mind that is able to understand those answers beyond the previous conditioning that was inflicted upon that mind. That's why there is these huge cognitive dissonance moments and the red pill rage afterwards. Not all of us can be emotional rocks, and not all of us are so highly logical about our observations. His story is a story that talks about female nature and how even that experience that he could not understand, he tried to break it down. His search for answers brought him here. It brought him, along with other brothers that share similar stories, along with other brothers that share even worse stories and even more traumatic stories. With this in mind, I want to say that if anyone wants me to share their story about their red pill awakening, no matter how fucked up it was, just email it to me. All your stories matter, just like every single one of you matters. And I want to listen to them, and I want to present them to people. And don't worry, everything, of course, will be anonymous. Thank you for listening, and thank you to my friend again for sharing this story with me. I hope he's happy with the outcome and with the video that I produced. This was Nick Wachowski talking about all things man. Please like, share, and of course subscribe for more updates.